the goal of this video is, well, I'm going to clean it up, hopefully. Get these lenses out, pull all this apart, tape over the indicator stuff, and hopefully just paint it black if I can clean it. So yeah, just gonna come along for the ride. Not gonna have done this before, no idea how to do it really, other than reading a couple of forum posts. Seems fairly simple. Alright, so I don't know if those show up on film, but there are these little nubs, looks like from the factory, and I guess they just break off over time. So I'm going to try to break those guys off, and then I get a knife. Oh, got one right here. Go. Oh, ooh, that made you know what clinch. Somebody's calling me. Yeah, this is just super glue. So with hopefully a little bit of careful prying, and I can get it to just pop loose. Yep, there it goes. Alright, so I got all three lenses out, and they look like they're all the same. Okay. So that's that. I'm gonna spare y'all the video of cleaning this up, but essentially I'm just gonna take like a Scotch pad, scuff all this up, and then take some painter's tape and cover up the things I don't want painted, and then just take a razor blade and cut out the paint around the painter's tape, and then just hit it, just cover it, probably in black. I think I'll even cover this silver. I don't really need the silver color anymore. Scrape this gasket maker off. Wheels up. So, and then yeah, a little polishing compound, a little scraping, cleaning, and polishing compound should bring these back to brand new. And then I'll probably use more of an actual epoxy to put them back on. Okay, I want to polish up the lenses, and I did my best to scrape off as much as I could with a razor and clean it up that way. They are like a plastic material, so if you look at it closely, you can see they're just kind of foggy, and they got scratches on them. They're just not particularly nice. I went and got a Headlight 3M Headlight restoration kit. Used these on a couple of cars for their headlights, and they work great for the headlight housing, so why not for this plastic housing? So we'll give that a shot. And the first thing I think I'm going to do is mount these down to the workbench. And one of the benefits of having a wooden bench instead of a steel bench. You can do random stuff like this. Okay, so these kits are pretty straightforward. I'm sure there's a gazillion YouTube videos out there about how to clean your headlights. So I'm pretty much following the same procedure. Coarsest to the finest sanding, and then a buffing compound at the end. And we'll just see how it turns out. Hopefully not too bad. I have found that wet sanding to be a little bit better as far as ease of doing this and longevity of the sandpaper. Alright, and after working your way through the sandpaper, then it's the rubbing compound. Ah. Alright, now I'm going to unscrew it. I'm going to use the rubbing compound on the back side only, since it doesn't need hardly anything, just to give it a little bit of cleanup. Oh, wow. I mean, that's night and day. Look at that. Nice. Okay, I'm going to shoot the whole thing because it's boring. But I'll show you kind of what I did. There was some sort of sticky residue. It probably had some sort of cover plate on it, maybe that brushed aluminum thing you can buy. So some Goo Gone, and I don't know if you can see it, the Tubbo towels that I have has a degreaser kind of element to it. And I just stuck my hand in the way to go, Wilder. There we go. Okay. And so yeah, I mean, I cleaned it and then took Scotch pad, scotched it up a little bit. I'll go back over it with like some alcohol before I paint it. But before that, I addressed any of the cracks. There were some cracks that we had, so just some 2-part epoxy to just kind of reinforce where it was cracking in the back. And then I'm gonna tape over this stuff. What I did find as I was cleaning and scuffed some of it is that what they did was painted it and then peeled off stickers that said off heat defrost, off fan high, because when I scraped it by accident, I found that you can see light behind it. See? So be super careful with that area unless you want to figure out how to redo that so that when your headlights come on you can read them. Sticking my hand in the epoxy. Okay, so that's pretty much it. I'm gonna let that epoxy dry and then I'll come back and paint it up. Well, the painting turned out pretty good, except I learned the hard way that you do not want to put tape over this. So it had some sort of black paint, and then they had, like, you know, from the manufacturer scraped out the word off fan defrost, off heat. Oh no, that's off fan high, off heat defrost, from that paint. And when I removed the blue painter's tape, it just took that black stuff right up, and so you can just kind of see where it says off heat defrost, but it's just ruined. So to catch up where I left off, in the video I'll probably just be click straight to this, but it's been a few weeks since then. I totally boogered up this plastic case trying to clean it up, and so I had to go ahead and I tried to come up with my last, I guess, left off was I tried to come up with a way to replace these. I'm sure somebody with sticker cutting skills could do that, but I mean, it was going to be a few $100 to get a sticker cutting machine. It just wasn't worth it. It was just cheaper to get a new or used a replacement gauge cluster, and it gives me some extra gauges if I find my oil pressure gauge doesn't work or something. I can rob it off of that one. But primarily I wanted this, and I went through and I kind of cleaned it up and fixed some of its areas, and it had the wood grain on it, which is just a laminate stuck down. So I just taped over the whole thing. What I learned in that one, if I didn't put it in the last video, was that you don't want to get taped down inside there because it pulls up all the off heat, all that stuff, pulls it all off and it ruins it. So instead I put tape over it and then just sprayed black over the perimeter of this to clean it up fairly well, you know. Looks better than the rest of the Jeep. All right, so next is epoxying the lenses on, and so I've got it sitting here relatively level so that the lens, as it's drying, doesn't, you know, slide off in a particular direction. And then I also want to make note that when you clean these guys, you're going to find, like I did, that, you know, some of them are boogered up, you know, or the glue has gotten into the visible part. And I would just recommend taking the time to kind of set it out and place any of the, see how it's kind of boogered across the top? Place that at the top of your gauge cluster up here in the top area, because when you're driving, it's going to be down like this, and you're going to see the lenses, but it'll be a little harder to see, I think, up top than it will be at the bottom. That's just my recommendation. And so, and this is just some painter's tape that I kind of rolled over on itself, created some tabs so I can set it down easily. Got them all, I think, lined up the way I want them to drop. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And then just mix up some epoxy. In my case, I just grabbed some JB Weld epoxy since I was at the part store anyway. Okay, let that puppy sit for 24 hours and get good and dry. Maybe by then my neighbor will be done mowing their yard. Awesome. Okay, roughly 24 hours later, epoxy should be good and dry. And there it is. And I give that a failing grade. I mean, it looks way better than it did, but I still managed to allow some of the epoxy to ooze out this side. And my hope was to keep it from being visible. So just be, I guess, don't do like I did and try to keep the epoxy, like, I don't know, if I was going to do it again, I might lay the epoxy halfway on this lip that the plastic lens sits on, that way. So start at the halfway point, goop that way, leave plenty of room for it to kind of ooze towards the center. And you know, do even thinner than I did. So it works. I mean, it's probably the nicest looking part on the whole Jeep anyway right now. So okay, so we're going to set that guy aside, and I'm going to pull apart the other one. That. I've already gone through this guy, but one of the things that I get with this other lens that was a nice grab is that after I did the voltmeter upgrade, my gauge still says amp, but this model does oil and a battery symbol. So I'm going to grab that plate out of there, which should be just simple plate face off. All right, it looks fairly good. There we go. Very cool. Okay. Don't have enough coffee in me. About stuck it in my old gauge pod. Took it out. Put it right back in the same damn one. Looks pretty dang good. And here's stock lighting with just a regular incandescent bulb inside the gauge cluster. Okay, here it is with the LED lights. Way brighter. Nice.